Can Biden successfully perform the duties of president if he does have dementia? What you can expect as an American should Biden be deemed unfit to continue the presidency? And who would replace Biden as president? You are listening to episode 3 of the Podfather Show. Welcome back to the Podfather Show. I'm your host, Podfather. I normally don't do this where I pick up and do a continuation of a previous episode. However, I feel before moving into a next scheduled podcast that there's some other points that I need to continue with regarding episode 2 of the Podfather Show, where we'd covered some of the topics of does Biden possibly have dementia? Some of the things I wanted to consider and I want you to consider is what Biden's ability would be to successfully perform the duties of being president of the United States if it later comes out that he does have dementia. And in order to consider that, we have to first understand the symptoms of dementia and how those would prevent him from successfully performing his job. Now, yes, I understand that there are different forms of dementia depending on which part of the brain dementia is affecting, but a lot of the symptoms are connected in somewhat the same, and none of them are good regardless of what type of dementia someone might be diagnosed with. None of them are good, and all of them would prohibit someone from performing the duties of president of the United States. And I was looking here on the Mayo Clinic website and consider them to be obviously a very credible source for information of a topic like this. And it says that dementia symptoms vary depending on the cause, but common signs and symptoms include memory loss, which is usually noticed by a spouse or someone else. But memory loss can go into a lot of things like, that we can see as well too, because Biden is in the public spotlight. Memory loss and things he wants to say, things he was planning to say, and as we're seeing, Biden has increased need to use a teleprompter. It's becoming more and more obvious when he is using a teleprompter and giving his speeches, and we're seeing him doing a lot less public campaigning, a lot less speeching here over the last couple of months. And that could be attributed to his inability to remember clearly exactly all of the things that he wants to address and cover with the people that he's speaking with. Difficulty in communicating or finding words. That goes back into the memory loss. But we're already seeing these things with Biden and all of the speeches that we're doing, or he's doing, all the videos that we're seeing of him, which we're seeing a lot less of lately, come to think of it. But we do see, as we're watching Biden, because, of him being in the spotlight, we are seeing him, with having trouble communicating, a loss for words and things. I mean, I'm not diagnosing Biden with dementia. I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified to do that. But some things in life are obvious, or at least obvious to the point where it makes you question these things. And especially when considering who you're going to be voting for as president of the United States, this is something that you should definitely consider as an American citizen who's going to be voting. Do you really want to vote for someone who may possibly have dementia? Even if it's not confirmed, it hasn't been confirmed that it's denied either. There, as mentioned in episode 2, there's no new medical reports denying these claims, these assumptions, these allegations that are being made against him. So we don't know. Therefore, all we can do and what we should do is naturally assume the worst. The signs are there, the symptoms are there. We're seeing them. So, and if the Democratic Party and his campaign managers aren't providing us with the information needed to satisfy these concerns, then we have no choice but to automatically assume the worst, especially considering the circumstances. I mean, if we ignore these and we vote for Joe Biden to become president of the United States, you are literally responsible as an individual, as a person, for having given your consent for someone who may have dementia to run this country and your life and the lives of others, hundreds of millions of people for the next 4 years. So the other symptoms go on to explain some other things that we may not be seeing with Joe Biden, but those are the things that would affect him and his ability to function as president of the United States behind the scene, which would affect us even the most. I mean, yeah, we're seeing the trouble with communication that he's having. And for most of us, we kind of make light of that, make heart, we joke about it. It's funny. But when you really think about it, it's not just communicating with us that affects us the most. It's the things that the president does behind the scene, the things that he orders, the papers and documents and laws that he puts his signature to, the executive orders, all these things that dementia would prohibit him from clearly and effectively articulating throughout the course of his duties. And we have a difficulty with visual and spatial abilities, such as getting lost while driving. Well, of course, that's not going to be an issue with the president. He's got somebody to drive him, but with difficulty reasoning and problem solving, difficulty handling complex tasks, difficulty with planning and organizing, difficulty with coordinating motor functions, confusion and disorientation. It sounds like a perfect storm. I mean, everybody was concerned that Trump was going to be a loose cannon when he was elected. He's going to start all these wars. Everybody's afraid, that if he went to North Korea, he's going to do nothing but start a fight. His ego would get in the way. He wouldn't be able to communicate with these people. They said the same thing about Russia. But at the end of the day, the symptoms of dementia actually would increase the likelihood of those types of things happening. I mean, if somebody has a difficulty in communicating, difficulty in handling and organizing and navigating complex tasks, a leader of another country is not going to be sympathetic to that, especially if they have a long running history of being the enemy of the United States. They're not going to say, oh, well, Biden's got dementia, we're just going to look the other way and forget this. It's going to cause problems. The psychological changes, the personality changes, we're seeing that with Biden. I mean, that it can't be ignored. We don't know if he has, the depression, the anxiety, but he definitely has, the personality changes. He's becoming more and more angry and frustrated. That could be, as we'd mentioned in part 2 or episode 2, to the frustration he's having in finding the right words. People, I don't think it can be denied. The possibility that Biden may indeed have dementia is very real. It's something that we need to consider. If you're a Democrat and you are considering voting for Biden, I think you have a lot of information that you really need to chew on, and you have to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. I mean, you may not like Trump, but is someone with dementia really someone that you want running this country? I think we could see just extremely bad situations in the office and in the political arena if Biden is to get elected and his cognitive decline does worsen. It does come out, that he's diagnosed with dementia, because then he would automatically be deemed unfit to be president. I mean, you can't have a president that has dementia. And I think we all know where that's going to lead. Naturally, the vice president would step up and end up becoming the president of the United States. And we all know who that's going to be. That's going to be Kamala Harris. We'll discuss that and the details and the story of Kamala Harris and how, she would be as president of the United States and what we could expect. We'll be covering that in episode 4. But I wanted to just bring up the short episode here to kind of recap on a lot of the things that we didn't have time for in episode 2, because I felt it was important enough to still get this message out there. And that doesn't even bring into, the whole topic of the hypocrisy of the left and the Democratic Party. When Trump was running for election, everybody was saying, well, he's not fit. He's not mentally fit. He's not mentally capable of being the president. But now that it's Joe Biden, it's their guy in their corner of the arena. All of a sudden they're looking the other way to the facts. I mean, with Trump, it was all speculation. It was accusations. It was just pointing fingers. But there's real evidence that Joe Biden may not be mentally capable of fulfilling the duties of President of the United States. It's not a joke anymore. I mean, this is serious. I mean, our world, our country, our society, we're hurting enough as it is. The last thing we need in the United States is an elderly man who is showing signs of cognitive decline and may possibly have dementia, and is nothing more than a pawn for the Democratic Party, who's fighting so aggressively, relentlessly, and ruthlessly just to gain back that seat to the White House. I'm really upset that this is going on to begin with. I mean, yeah, we all laugh about it. Biden says some of these things. I admit even I've laughed at some of them, but it's not really funny when you really begin to think about the cause and effect. What are some of the ways that these things are going to affect us as citizens if they're real? And those are some of the things I think if we're moving closer to the election, that we really need to be focusing on. Is we need to stop, with the laughing and the having fun with it, and actually see what's going on and realize how serious this is. If you're on the fence about who you're going to be voting for, if you're going to vote Democrat, you might as well just face it. You're not voting for Biden. You're voting for Kamala Harris, because if Biden does indeed have dementia, he's not going to be sitting in that seat the entire 4 years. I mean, I would personally give it 6 months before they remove him and Kamala Harris moves in, if it's even that long. I don't expect Biden to remain, even if he wins the election. I don't expect him to remain in that seat indefinitely for the entire term. I really believe that we're going to see the Democrats finally admit that Biden has dementia. It will come out, and then they'll use that as their gateway to move Kamala Harris into the presidential seat, which may be what they're wanting from the beginning. This all may be just part of their plan. I mean, Biden has ran for president a couple of times now, I believe, and ended up dropping out for various reasons. I mean, he was never a real strong candidate on his own. He could just be the puppet from the Democratic puppeteers that are controlling, the strings of this campaign. They may see him as their way into the White House with full intentions on removing him and replacing him with Kamala Harris later. For all we know, I mean, if he does have dementia, he didn't even decide to name Kamala Harris entirely on his own with his own free thought and free will anyway. This may have all been suggested to him behind the scenes. It would not surprise me if that were the case, considering we're dealing with the Democratic Party here. It's no secret that their MO is underhandedness and trickery and smoke and mirrors. I mean, it is what it is. So moving forward, I ask of each of you, put your personal feelings aside for Trump. Put your personal feelings aside for Biden, and think about the integrity of the country as a whole. If you're truly able to do that, stop Stop with the, well, Trump's this and Trump's that and Biden's this and Biden's that. And it's all funny because it's not funny anymore. We're just weeks away from the election. It's time to take this seriously. It's time to look this in the eye and to take it head on. And the only way that you may be able to sway someone else into not voting for Biden is to stop making fun of them, stop arguing with them and everything. And just I know it's going to be difficult. A lot of them don't want to listen, but I've seen Democrats come around, especially this election. There's hordes of them coming around. Just try to educate with them, point them out with facts, try to, play on empathy and point out the evidence that shows that Biden may have dementia, and try to reason with everyone's hearts. But we're not going to get through to anyone by arguing with them. We're not going to get through to anyone by laughing at them. And again, admittedly, I've laughed at a few of the things Biden said too. It's funny, and the thing. And I get it. It is what it is. The man is a living meme. But there's a part of this that isn't funny, and that's the behind the scenes stuff. And it's actually quite scary. We don't need, as Americans, any more chaos than what we already have. And I fear that if Biden ends up winning the election, that's all we're going to have is chaos. Kamala Harris, her true colors will come through when she's placed into the presidency. And we're going to see an evil unleashed on this country like we've never seen before. And we'll get into all of that and more in episode 4 of the Podfather Show. Thank you for turning in.